If you've been constantly struggling in the dating world, right? You keep having repeat cycles and, you keep attracting the wrong partners and it's just not working out, or you are in your relationship and it's having ongoing issues and you can't seem to get it back on track or fix things, it's because you're missing a relationship checklist. And I'm going to show you right now how to build your relationship checklist, vet it, and apply it to get the results you want. Now, bear with me. I'm going to make this very simplified for you, but understand that I'm breaking down something that is very deep and complex into very simple and understandable terms. So first, let's start with if you're in the dating stage, right? Because before we get into a relationship or a marriage, right, we start off dating first, right? We start off trying to find someone. So if you're going to build your relationship checklist, it's comprised of a few things. And the two artery things are, to begin with, it's your standards and your boundaries, right? These are the two big pillars. Now, why am I saying this? And you're like, oh, well, Coach Los, I already get that. Well, help me find the right guy. Help me find the right woman. Well, until you truly get clear and vet your standards and your boundaries to make sure you're operating in accordance to them, you're going to continue to struggle to get what you want because you're not living by your own creed, right? Your own rule system that you should have very dotted I's and crossed T's on to where it is laser sharp, right? Airtight. So let's understand that your standards equates to your identity, right? See, oftentimes we talk about standards and it's like, hey, you got to meet my standards to be with me. Well, shoot, half the problem is you're not meeting your own standards. Right? A lot of you out there entertaining men or women out there that are not matching or measuring up to the standards that you have. So you by default are violating your own standards. So let's be clear. The way you live and operate is always in direct relation to how you see yourself. And here's the big piece. Oftentimes, how we see ourselves versus how we want to see ourselves and live can be two different things. So first is getting clear on who you are and who you want to be, right? Because that determines how you self-identify. Then from there, you get clear on what is required, right? Standards are requirements, how you need to live in order to be happy, healthy, and whole, to be who you see yourself as and be happy as that person. Now, the way we do this is we go through our checklist of core human needs that we all have. I don't care who you are. We all have these same core needs. Now, different strokes, different folks. So different personalities, different individuals have a different varying levels of what's required to meet those needs. Some people prioritize some of our needs more than others, and others prioritize the other needs, right? So you got to ask yourself this in respect to your standards. What am I doing, right? Based off of the ideal of who I see myself as and who I want to be and how I want to live. What am I doing to make myself feel reassured, grounded, and certain in that identity, right? What am I doing that allows me to feel confident in the person that I see myself as or want to see myself as? Second, what am I doing to bring excitement, joy, surprise, mystery, newness into my life, right? So my life is not boring and monotonous. What am I doing in a sustainable way that does that? Third, what am I doing to connect with myself, right? Like, how am I pouring love into myself? What am I doing for that? Fourth, what am I doing to show myself that I matter, to have significance, to feel like I'm mattering to someone, to people, to this world, right? Then fifth, what am I doing to grow? You know the saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. What am I doing consistently to keep myself evolving? And then last, but definitely not least, what am I doing to live in a sense of purpose, right? My calling. What am I doing that makes my life feel like it has real value and I'm making a difference here on some level? Those 6 categories, you have to get really clear on what are you doing in your life to make sure all of those needs are being present and met sustainably. Any area that is missing or lacking is probably your first place to look as to where you're having obstacles in your life or what have you, right? To live in respect to the identity that you see yourself as, who you actually want to be. So that's your 6 checklist needs to make sure that you're living to the standard that actually resonates with who you truly are. Now let's look at the boundaries, right? Let's be clear. Boundaries are protective measures. So your standards are requirements of things that must happen, what you must do, how you must live, things that need to happen for you to be who you want to be. Boundaries are the things that cannot happen that may impact or violate who you are and who you want to be. Meaning your boundaries are there to protect your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. So standards are the doing, the boundaries are the preventing, what cannot happen, right? And so you have to get clear on what things cannot happen that if they do happen, it'll put me in a poor physical, mental, emotional state, right? What things would impact you in that way? Those are your boundaries that cannot happen. And that's a loaded thing, right? So that can be from disrespectful verbiage or someone talking to you in a real disrespectful way. It can be someone hitting you. It could be someone being manipulative, whatever it is, right? It could be someone not respecting your space or, your possessions, anything under the sun that fits under the bucket or goes into the bucket or under the umbrella of it's going to impact you physically, mentally, or emotionally in a negative way. And let me be clear, when you do this for the standards and for the boundaries, you have to come up with tangibles. Don't just come up with something conceptually. Come up with what does it look like in practice whenever I'm living and firing on all cylinders, doing all the things to meet all those 6 core needs for myself. And then what are all the things that cannot happen tangibly that impacts me? See, we make a mistake by thinking conceptually too often. And then whenever certain situations come up, we can't really put our finger on what was wrong sometimes or what we were doing right or whatever, because we haven't gotten clear on what is happening in here looks like physically. So now after you've done that, here's how we're going to strength test it. Now, after you have your standards and your boundaries, you're going to vet them by asking yourself, for everything I put as a standard for me, right? And everything I put as a boundary for me, let me clarify why each thing serves me. Meaning, each thing you put has to check off all 5 of, is it helpful to me? Is it positive for me? Is it loving for me? Does it feed my spirit? And does it build me up? Right? If you can't check a yes mark across all 5, it does not serve you. I don't care how much you think it does. You need to go back and rework it and adjust it. If you do this successfully and you start living by it consistently, and here's the piece. We always talk about partners coming in, people you're dating to live up to your standard or respect your boundaries, but you have to do it first. You have to be an example of it first. So if you start living by your own standards and don't flex and waver on them, if you keep standing your ground and setting your boundaries, right, and don't flex on them, don't waver on them, then now when you go out and start dating, you'll be able to gauge how well the person in front of you actually aligns with or has chemistry with your standards you're living by and has the ability to respect and honor your boundaries that you set. And what will start happening is you'll start canceling people out a lot faster and stop wasting your time. And up front, off of a few things someone may say, you'll know whether it even makes sense to go on a date with them in the first place, to where you'll start really isolating yourself out to only identifying people that match your frequency, right? Attract what you're in harmony with, because people that are like you are going to identify that you're the same way. And that's going to give you way better results when it comes to your dating experience. But now let's talk about if you're in the relationship, right? If you're actually in that relationship now, or marriage, whatever one you want to say, if it's committed, and things are struggling a little bit, first place to start is look into those standards and those boundaries. How well are you living in accordance to them? And how well is what you've built for your standards and your boundaries serving you, right? Or are they actually following that definition of helpful, positive, loving, feeding your spirit, building you up? Because if you can say yes, then by default, whatever you're doing or operating as serves your partner. Because you can never tell me something that serves you that doesn't serve them. Because if it doesn't serve them, it doesn't serve who you want to be. So it can't serve you, right? That's why it's important to make sure you're crystal clear on it matching all 5. If you can say it does, right, then now the question becomes on their end, what about their standards and their boundaries may there be some added help needed towards? Either is there something you're not doing to help match what they require the way you have requirements for them? Or is what they require and what they believe in not actually right for what you believe in? If you're clear on how you're operating, maybe you come to learn they're not your person like you thought they were. But if they are, then it says, Well, where are we missing the mark? Where maybe we off or straight away from our boundaries or our standards in some way to where it's causing this conflict. And the more you go and you sift through, right, after you get clear on your side on whether you're living to your standards and the boundaries, and if you educated your partner on what you require well enough. You see, sometimes we think our partner gets it, but they don't. And oftentimes we haven't clarified ourselves to be able to articulate it to them. So have you got clear on your standards and your boundaries in the healthiest way, right? And then have you communicated that to your partner effectively to where they understand? Because now it lets you know where the struggle is, whether they just aren't willing or not able or just don't get it, right? So you can start pinpointing, okay, how I can help them to help me get what I require. And then ask yourself, am I doing the same in return for them? Am I helping them meet their requirements as long as that aligns with who I am and respecting their boundaries for whatever they need to protect who they are? And it's a little pro tip. The most core space or need that you probably should focus on most when it comes to you and your partner is that need for connection and maybe that need for significance too. Those two usually go hand in hand. And so a great vetting system to use for that is asking yourself, because let me say it like this. When it comes to our needs, it's our job to meet them first. Our partner contributes to them. And so when it comes to the need for connection, which is a really loaded out need, right? There's a lot that goes into loving yourself properly. It's not just going to the gym and eating right. It's also what you communicate to yourself affirmations wise and a whole load of things, right? But to simplify it, what you do is you ask yourself, all right, what am I doing to honor my value, right? What am I doing to protect my value? And what am I doing to celebrate it? And so the same thing to be questioned about your partner. How are they contributing to honoring your value, protecting it, and celebrating it, right? And then how well are you contributing to honoring their value, protecting it, and celebrating it? And if you didn't catch it, what I'm really doing there is we're blending the standards and the boundaries and what it means to feel loved all into one, because that is a part of being loved. It's loving yourself to stand in who you are and who you identify as and live to your standards, right? That's honoring your value, exuding it, putting it on display. Then your boundaries, the things that you don't allow, and as your partner respects and honors, is actually protecting your value, not harming it. And then celebrating it is how you treat yourself, how you celebrate you and do nice things for yourself to show yourself that you matter. And then how your partner contributes to that, how they pour into you, how they make you feel special, how they love on you the way you need to be loved, celebrating your value. And how well do you do it for them in return? If you truly get clear on this checklist, your standards, your boundaries, if it's serving in the way that you've identified these things, how well you're living up to them, how well the person across from you, whether it's dating or in a relationship with, is living up to them as well, and how well you are living up to their thing, I guarantee you it's going to make you lights out better at finding any issues or making the adjustments to get the results you actually want in your relationships. And I know that's a lot of information. I really tried to simplify it as best as possible. I think I did a pretty good job at chunking it down. But if you need help going through it on a deeper dive, a deeper level to really internalize and learn it in your fibers so you can get the results you want, email or DM me the word coaching and we'll get to work as long as you're truly ready to put the work in. If you're not ready for one-on-one coaching, don't have the time or the space, I get it. Then email or DM me the word revival to join my Relationship Revival Hub community where you can learn the same things I teach my clients one-on-one at your own pace on your own time. Through my live weekly coaching lessons and Q&A sessions to where I can answer your questions directly, provide advice and the feedback that you need, or you can watch the replay whenever you have time too. I have my relationship renewal course in there that teaches you everything you need to know how to make a healthy relationship function, what are the issues that gets you thrown off, toxic habits, and even conflict resolution skills. The whole 9, love languages and all, is in there, as well as I make exclusive content just for my members in the community. So if you join and you have things you need to learn, I'll make videos just for you particularly. Either way, do something to get in the race. Let's get it.